We are going to review top 5 best telescopes. Let's get started. List number 1. Meade Infinity 102mm Oz. The scope itself has the same aperture as the Celestron Omni below, which is a significant saving on the Celestron. The reason Meade can sell a similar quality beginner telescope for a much lower price is the telescope mount, which is the cheaper to make and less sturdy alt-azimuth mount. With an aperture of 102mm, 4 inches, the Infinity matches the Celestron, but it has a shorter focal length of 600mm, giving it a focal ratio of f/5.9, compared to the Celestron's f/9.8. The result of this is lower magnification in the Meade with the same eyepiece. That's not a bad thing because most astronomy takes place at relatively low magnifications. List number 2. Celestron PowerSeeker 127 EQ. The best budget telescope in the reflector category is the Celestron 127 EQ PowerSeeker scope. This 5-inch aperture Newtonian reflector telescope is supported by an equatorial mount and is a very popular telescope for beginners. Which is great value for the aperture and scope. 5 inches reveals a huge number of celestial objects under a dark sky. As with any smaller scope, brighter objects in the sky work best, so the Moon, rings of Saturn and brighter objects such as Andromeda Galaxy and Orion Nebula are the ones you'll have most success with. Even though the value is impressive, make sure to save some money back for better eyepieces than those supplied. List number 3. Celestron Omni XLT 102mm. The XLT part of its name comes from the optical coatings used on the 102mm, 4 inches, objective lens. This refracting telescope itself is a very competent intermediate model. Lenses are decent quality, although you should expect some chromatic aberration at this price point, but owners say it doesn't disturb the viewing, and, if you've never looked at planets through a scope before, you will be blown away when you see the rings of Saturn and Jupiter's bands through the Omni's 4 inches lens. The objective lens tube has a 1000mm, 39-inch, focal length giving a focal ratio of f/9.8. This makes it a long scope but gives it the skills needed to make great work of planet watching. List number 4. Orion AstroView 6 inches. Its 6-inch aperture primary mirror sits at one end of an optical tube with a focal length of 750mm, giving it a focal ratio of f5, which is quite fast for a telescope and lends itself to astrophotography, although you will need to invest more in a better telescope mount and motorized tracking for that. It has a wide field of view, making it useful for seeing objects like galaxies in our night skies, and a 6 inches aperture means you're collecting a decent amount of light, so theoretically you can see objects in the sky down to magnitude 14 with great seeing. Dark skies, of course, give the best viewing experience. However, 6 inches of reflector aperture is best used for brighter objects in the solar system and brighter messier objects. List number 5. Skywatcher Collapsible 8 inches. The Skywatcher's party trick is collapsing for easier transportation and storage. In its built state, it has a focal length of some 1200mm, giving it a focal ratio of f/6, great for wide field views of star clusters. The tube rests on a rocker mount base with Teflon bearings and a tension clutch for simple point-and-shoot guidance. Keep in mind that this Skywatcher is a beast, weighing it at about 70 pounds, but it is simple to collapse and rebuild as needed. Just 3 separate knobs release/fix the scope. Keep in mind that you won't get go-to tracking, slow motion controls or be able to do astrophotography with this scope. Instead, this is all about the pure thrill of finding and seeing elusive deep sky objects.